Welcome back to Two Marks and a Spark, the home of pro wrestling fans and assholes all alike. I'm Ben. That's Uncle Russ. And who the fuck is this stupid jabroni on my screen? In a fucking CM Punk shirt and glasses, and now he... And...
Good evening, Devlin. Good to see you, sir.
Evening, Russ. Likewise, my friend.
Devlin's here against my better judgment, for sure.
Looking dapper.
I am the dapper dandy.
So, gentlemen, other than the fact that I made a poor choice in bringing you both back, I made a poor creative decision this week. I brought you both back. Hopefully this doesn't...
Or did we make a poor creative choice in agreeing to be on the show again?
One could argue it could go both ways.
Right.
Well, gentlemen, we were talking about this before the show, but we sat here a week ago not knowing what we were in for.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week in professional wrestling, not just all the week.
How much difference one short week can make?
Yeah.
So let's get right to it here. Let's just start from where we left off last Sunday. Well, I guess the show went up Monday, but let's start from where we left off when we last followed the endeavors of Pepsi Phil. This week on Days of Our Pepsi Phil,
yes,
he got in a fight with Jack Perry last week. Both him and old Jungie boy there were suspended with no timetable for a return. As the week went along, and I'm going to provide some insight where I can here. As the week went along, I started hearing certain things. I heard that both of them are gone at one point, which is not true. I heard that Punk is more than likely gone. We don't know about Jack, and I think that's probably more reality than anything, that they don't know about Jack yet, but Punk is gone. And then I heard they're both coming back. So, the truth always falls somewhere in the middle. So we get the news yesterday, right before Collision and Payback go on the air. A statement is issued, and I'm going to pull it up here again. I meant to pull it up before we started, but I just kind of...
It was worded very carefully and very legally.
It was written by a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'll say it that way. One moment. I'm scrolling here. So, essentially...
everybody hates lawyers until you need one. Right?
Oh, yeah. Devlin, how do you feel about lawyers while I try to find this statement?
My thing about this is that there were reports earlier in the week after the altercation, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, that Punk had not only had the altercation, but then he had lunged at Tony Khan, that him and Tony Khan weren't communicating, that they hadn't communicated after the incident. And then we get word that Punk was fired, and we also find out that Tony Khan didn't even talk to Punk directly. He contacted Punk's legal team, and his legal team let him know he was fired. There's so many layers to this.
I want to read this statement because I think it's important that we give both sides here, which the company side officially is this. All Elite Wrestling has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements. We're going to talk about that in a minute and what the hell that might mean, between Phillip Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause effective immediately. I'll get back to that in a minute.
That's an important phrase, with cause.
I will get back to that in a minute. I think pretty much everybody knows what that means, but
that is an important phrase. Can we get back to that in a minute, please?
Fuck you.
Yes.
Anyway, the termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan. I want to read to you the fucking dick sucking that they did for Tony in this statement. confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, general manager, and head of creative of AEW. Head of creative, motherfucker, you're the only one writing this shit. Anyway, the termination follows a week-long internal investigation. I thought it was an external investigation done internal. Anyway, of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All in London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee, whoever the fuck they are, they don't bother to tell us, met
The
later.
elite.
We don't know who the members of the committee are, do we?
It's the elite. It's just the elite.
I was going to say, Hangman Adam Page. No, I doubt it.
It's not the elite, but
no, but wouldn't that be funny? And later convened with outside legal counsel. Why? What? Before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement, and I want to read this to you because this was not written by Tony at all. Quote, Phil played an important role within AEW, and I thank him for his contributions. No, you don't. The termination of his AEW contract with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish I didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to many of our fans. Nevertheless, I'm making the decision in the best interests of many amazing people who make AEW possible every week, our talent, staff, venue operators, and many others whose effects are unsung but essential to bringing our fans great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world. This was written by a lawyer, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, CM Punk has not said anything.
Not a word.
But I guarantee you he will.
Oh, he will.
This motherfucker cannot keep his foot out of his mouth. So he's going to say something. But just the shock yesterday, I feel like a lot of the internet was surprised yesterday. And I was like, why are we surprised by this?
Yeah.
This has been coming. You know, I mean, Devlin, were you surprised? I wasn't.
I was more surprised at the timing of it.
They could have waited until Monday. I mean,
but again, here's the thing, then if you wait till Monday and then Punk doesn't show up, then you have people upset about it and wondering why and this and that. The problem that AEW had was that they ran 3 shows or 4 shows in Chicago this week after all this had happened. And there was no way that after Sunday they were going to be able to put him on TV. And people were saying, oh, well, maybe the investigation will, come to an end and he'll be able to be at the pay-per-view. That was never going to happen, ever.
The investigation did come to an end. Well, I don't even think the investigation's over. I think they did. It sounds like to me, and I don't know this, I haven't heard this, but it sounds like there was 2 separate investigations going on. The CM Punk Jack Perry incident and then the CM Punk Tony Khan incident. It sounds like they were 2 separate things.
Sports Illustrated reports the sources close to both sides expect a response from CM Punk after the announcement of his firing by AEW, which holds the potential to be explosive. So,
you know what? At this point, I'm rooting for the drama. You know what? Give me all the bullshit. Give me all the petty bullshit, please.
The other thing about it that I thought was interesting was that I think the reason the investigation wrapped up so quickly this time is because midweek it was leaked that there was actually video footage of what happened, and I think that with Tony Khan sitting there and video footage, it was a lot easier for legal departments, whether it be Punk's, internal, external, AEW's legal, whatever it was, to come to the conclusion and make the decision that they did, unlike the brawl out thing where you really only had the participants in the room and you kind of had to do a he said kind of thing, and that's why that dragged on. This had video evidence and was right in front of Tony Khan, so I think it was a lot easier to wrap it up in a quick, timely manner.
I agree with you, and
I don't like that.
I also think the the problem with the brawl out situation was there was so many people that were involved that it took them a long time just to figure out who was actually there and who wasn't.
Right.
Like it took them a long time to figure out who the fuck actually went in there because the brawl out thing started with not a lot of people in the room, but then the fight started and everybody went in.
Right.
I mean, so here's the thing. I firmly believe that Punk wanted to leave.
100%. 100%.
And
Especially because after, we heard leaks throughout the week that after his incident with Jack Perry and whether he lunged toward Tony Khan or whatever,
I
that
heard he grabbed him by the suit collar. That's what I
that he
heard.
was screaming, "I quit, I quit." So he
No, there was more
obviously
stuff than that. He said more
he
than that.
obviously he obviously wanted to leave. He was frustrated. I think the company was frustrated with him. You know,
I think the how I feel about it is Punk overplayed his hand because he had a lot of power and he overplayed his hand. And it got him into this problem.
This has been building for a year because it's been almost exactly a year.
yeah,
This last blow up, and you notice how CM Punk, when he would come back after being injured, because he had a couple, and he would be gone for several weeks or a couple of months, and he'd come back and he'd sit there in the ring, and he'd start taking shots at specific wrestlers, as if all that time he'd been off, that was just stewing in his mind, that he couldn't let something that somebody said a couple of months ago go. He was still pissed off about it. He was still indignant. And, I've been saying to myself for the last year, how long is Tony Khan going to put up with this kind of behavior?
right.
The answer was about 365 days.
Yeah, it's, I tell you what, most people, if we had talked about the company we worked for right in front of our boss the way he did a year ago, we wouldn't have a job for the next day.
To give you an idea, if me and Russ came on here and started talking about Lock 22 the way Punk talked about AEW,
we would no longer be.
We would not be here. Okay. Right. Point blank, I would be gone. Russ would be gone. Excommunicado.
And then I'd have to run the fucking show, and ratings would plummet, and it would be terrible.
Yeah, sure that. So guys, obviously the logical question here is what's next. I think AEW is better off without him.
I hope that there could be some a little bit of healing in the locker room there, and people start to get along a little better. There were a lot of accounts too about Samoa Joe stepping up and being a real leader.
Absolutely.
We've heard that since he got there, though. This is not the first time.
He was kind of credited with getting Punk calmed down to the point to where he actually wrestled his match, because he sounds like he was ready just to walk out and screw the fans and screw everybody.
Well,
fortunately, he calmed down and thought better of that.
I'll tell you what I heard, and I'm not reporting this. I did not hear this from multiple sources or anything. I heard this once, and I heard it kind of on the side, and I'm not even sure if it's true, but apparently amongst all the chaos and trying to figure out if they were actually going to have the match or not, they were going to change the finish so Joe could win that belt. But once Punk got calmed down, they reverted back to what they actually did. Now, in retrospect, should they have changed the finish? Absolutely, they should have changed the finish. Oh my God.
Well, at least he possibly ends his career with a win over Samoa Joe.
What do you think?
And I don't know if he's done with wrestling or not, but I think there's a lot of wrestling fans that might be done with him.
Well,
I think
and I think he is done only because he wrestled his last match against probably his greatest rival in Samoa Joe, definitely his longest rival,
Right?
at the biggest show, at the biggest pro wrestling show in
In
American
history,
history, in front of
right?
81,035 people. Like, if you're going to go out and you're going to fall on your sword, there's no bigger place to do it than against your biggest rival in the biggest show of all time.
Yeah,
Punk made a fool of himself here.
He did.
There's no other way to put it. CM Punk just made a fucking fool of himself. They gave him a bag of money and he said, fuck you.
He did. I do want to talk about something else here, Ben. Nick House of House of Wrestling. He's one of the best,
Nick
one of the
Hausman, yeah.
best, one of the best wrestling reporters in the world. Was tweeted out on September 2nd, which was yesterday, that a sit-down meeting between the Elite and CM Punk was scheduled to take place last week, which would have been the week of All Out, or the week,
yes,
or All In, I'm sorry, the week before, um, ahead of AEW All In, but was called off last minute by the Elite. The meeting was intended to bury the hatchet, and the cancellation of it appears to have added to Punk's overall frustrations.
Okay, but here's the thing. Let's play both sides here. I understand why Punk would be frustrated with that. I think we all do. But I also understand why it got canceled, because there's 100 reasons that thing could have gotten canceled. Somebody could have gotten sick. Somebody's kid could have gotten sick. You don't know why it got canceled. It might have been as simple as, hey, my kid's sick. My wife's sick. I can't do this today. It could have been that small. Now, do I know that that was the case? No, I don't. But I'm just saying it's not necessarily just because the Elite didn't want to do it. It could have really been, hey, my kid's sick, my wife's sick.
It could have, but I think given the fact that since the Elite came back on TV, they've done small, subtle jabs at Punk, Kenny Omega especially. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. You are correct. We don't know, and we probably never will, but it doesn't surprise me. One thing that I wish I would have seen tonight was Christian Cage come out and say, "So I heard the Windy City lost its father."
yeah,
uh,
right.
Like,
so
and
That would have been
like,
good.
one more thing, real quick, I want to point out, Benny, is that Fightful Select reported that last night Punk's firing was heavily discussed backstage in WWE, which I found to be pretty noteworthy and pretty interesting as well. I mean,
I will tell you this. That's true. It was. But I'd also heard that it was discussed in a light of, and it was discussed by management as well, of, okay, it was discussed in the sense of, okay, we have one less thing to worry about over there. That's how it was discussed. At least by management. It was discussed as, okay, they just lost one of their major ratings draws.
yeah.
And I understand that, because if you think about this from WWE's perspective, that's their competition. Whether they say it publicly or not, internally, they see them as competition. Now, do I think Punk being gone takes AEW down a tier in terms of being able to compete with WWE? No, because I don't think they were ever on that level anyway. They've always been number two, and they will be, because here's the thing, WWE had a 50+ year head start on you. You're not going to catch up with them in 4 years.
Right.
I don't
And
care
even if the wrestling is better or not, the fact remains that nobody does television programming better than WWE in the whole world of sports entertainment, or I would say
nobody negotiates television deals better than them.
I mean, they know how to put on a TV show, and they got top rate production values, and they can make a turd look like a hunk of gold sometimes, you know.
I think that I think, and I was actually thinking about this tonight on while I was watching the pay-per-view. I was thinking specifically about like the video packages that lead into matches, and nobody does those better than WWE.
Mhm.
And the one example that I kept coming back to was the one for Nakamura versus Rollins, where he was talking in Japanese and he was basically kind of had that assassin ninja mentality, talking about how he's gonna, I know you have a wife and you have a daughter, and I know your back is hurt, and I'm gonna take you out and this and that. And then, you also think of so many just great bloodline stuff and all that. I think the only thing AEW does better is the realism of it. I like the fact that AEW is more wrestling and more gritty, and in that term, more realistic. Whereas WWE is definitely more of the grandiose, the entertainment, the very, very much kind of like the Macho Man style when he used to come out in the robe and the music and everything
Yeah.
like that. Like, to me, that's WWE in a nutshell.
Is it
Whereas
fair to say, though? Is it fair to say that the shine is off AEW right now?
I think it is, but I also think that going back to what you just said about CM Punk, I do disagree with you a little bit. I I agree with you in the fact that AEW is always going to be number two to WWE no matter what. However, I do think it did take them down a notch only because you look at CM Punk when he was there, whether you like him or not, whether you give him credit for what he did, he was a needle mover. He moved merch. You say CM Punk in the wrestling business, people have an opinion on him, good, bad, or otherwise. I'm not saying that AEW was ever going to catch WWE with CM Punk. What I am saying is without CM Punk, the gap is a little wider.
Oh
If
yeah.
Punk was 10 years younger, I think they would have had a better shot. The problem always was, and I pointed this out when he came in, Punk is 40 plus and was never going to wrestle till he was 50. That was never going to happen. And in order for a guy like a CM Punk to work long term, you need him for 5 plus years. Just because of the type of guy that he is, the type of worker he is, you need him. If you're going to build around him, you need 5 years. And they never were going to get that. Even if he never got fired, even if none of this shit ever happens, he was probably there through next year at best as a full-time guy. And that was going to be it. And he was never really a full-time guy anyway, because even when he had the world title, he was there, what, every other week, maybe?
Yeah, he was Roman Reignsing it there for a while.
There you go.
Like, even when he was feuding with Hangman right before he got hurt, like,
That's where things, I think, where things really started to go south was when that first incident when both Hangman, Adam Page, and CM Punk were both guilty of going off the script on a promo and going into business for themselves.
and to anybody that wants to say Hangman wasn't punished for that, yes, he was. The guy hasn't
Yeah,
been near the world title since then.
right.
Dude,
Yeah,
Hangman got
but
punished for that.
it seemed like after that, it was just kind of a downward spiral for CM Punk as far as getting along with people in the company.
Well,
Agreed.
I, I, I just,
Yeah.
I don't see any way that if he goes back to WWE, I know for a fact there are people there that do not want him there. And I know for a
Sure.
fact that there's at least 5 people who would pretty much maybe not quit the second that he came back, but would like pretty much tell the company, hey, I'm not re-signing if he's going to be here. They wouldn't
Well,
quit.
Seth Rollins is the number one guy. Somebody asked him at WrestleMania weekend, "What do you think about? How would you feel about CM Punk coming back to WWE?" And Seth Rollins said in no uncertain terms, "I don't like that guy. I don't like him. He's a cancer. I don't like that guy. He can stay as far away from our locker room and our company as possible." So I
And you think he didn't hear that from Moxley? Get a give me a break. He heard that from Mox. Mox told him everything that was going on. And I know those two don't talk a ton anymore, but I guarantee you he heard enough to know, okay, yeah, we don't want that guy around here. All right, let's get into Payback.
I actually want to pivot real quick if we can before we get into Payback.
Yeah.
Or at some point in the show, I'd like to talk about what this means for AEW Collision.
I think
Right.
you know what?
This
That's
is going to have
question.
ramifications.
Let's go to that, because put Payback on hold for a second. What I think is going to happen, and what I think needs to happen, is you are going to see another hiring frenzy. They are going to go out and they are going to go after big names and big names exclusively. They're not going to hire just anybody. They are going after Edge. We already knew they were going after Edge. And if I'm Edge, guess what? My asking price just went up.
Absolutely, it did.
Well, I think right now the WWE should make him a better offer too if they want to keep him.
I think I know WWE wants to keep him. I mean, they don't want to lose that guy. That's the one WWE lifer that kind of they have left. I mean, everybody else is kind of left at some point other than Randy Orton.
Yeah.
So, and John obviously, but John was never going to leave. So I think Collision again, they need talent on a not on a number level, but on a notoriety level. They need a Mercedes Moné. They need a Adam Copeland. They almost need another Christian Cage. Like, really, that's what it's going to take here. And I don't know if, and I know this is going to sound like a bad idea, and I know how much we don't like part-timers and old guys getting in the ring, but if you can get Mark Henry cleared for one match, you got to pull the trigger now. Like, I don't care. I know, part-timers, this, that, and the third. Dude, if you can get Mark Henry cleared for one match and put that shit on Collision, you're going to pull a number for that.
I don't think Mark Henry's a big enough name in wrestling anymore. I think he was 10 years ago. I don't think he's a big enough name anymore.
But it would help. It wouldn't.
It wouldn't hurt, but I don't think it would help the numbers enough. I think if I'm Tony Khan or the people at TNT, I do three things with AEW Collision. One, I make the show Jay White front and center. I strap the rocket to that guy and send him to the moon. Number two, I put Bryan Danielson almost exclusively on that show with some exceptions for Dynamite and whatnot. And I make that show about him. And number three, Samoa Joe is the third guy on that show. If you make the show about Jay White, Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, those are three guys that you can trust will carry the show. My
concern is two of those guys are injury prone.
They are 100%. You're not wrong. But
Jay's not, but the other two are.
You have to take what you got to work with the hand you're dealt. And, they could so easily. You can say the same thing about CM Punk. You could very easily say, well, yeah, they gave him the entire show too, and that dude's injury prone too.
And problem in the back.
He won the title and then he dropped it, 3 days later, or dropped it late. By the way, nice touch drinking Pepsi. That's a great touch with my shirt. I appreciate that. Punk drops the title, to Moxley, and they hot potato it because Punk gets hurt. So, it's wrestling. Injuries happen, especially in AEW, because, like I said, that's a more realistic, gritty style of wrestling. They're still protected, but it's more gritty than WWE. So yeah, injuries are going to happen. Plus, you have people doing indie shows. You have people doing like John Moxley showed up at AAW this weekend. You have people doing New Japan stuff. Like you've got more you've got more stuff going on outside of AEW, but you have to take the talent that you have and make it work. You can't dwell on the fact that, oh, CM Punk's gone. What are we gonna do? The show's
But I'm
ratings are
worried
gonna
that that's what they're going to do because
you,
that
you I don't think Tony Khan will. I think he's smart enough to look at his roster, say, here's who we've got, here's who we're gonna strap a rocket to, and we're gonna send them to the moon and we're gonna push them.
now I want to talk about one other thing, and I think this is an interesting little string in this whole thread. I still firmly believe that part of the reason Cody Rhodes left when he did is he saw some of this, not all of it. He couldn't have seen all of it, but I think he saw some of this coming. And I think he said,
Absolutely.
dude, I don't want anything to do with any of this. I I know for a fact, and he didn't say this outright, but he alluded to it, that he didn't want Punk. Tony wanted Punk. Cody did not. Cody knew because Cody's been with Punk before. He was with him in WWE forever. Punk left before he did. He knows. You think Cody didn't know what a problem this was going to be? He's like, dude, I've seen this movie before. I don't want anything to do with this.
Right.
Just, I think at some point, and I don't know that this happened, but I could have seen this. I think at some point in the negotiations with Punk, Tony went to Cody and said, I think we're going to get him. And Cody said, I love you, Tony, but I hope not. Because if we get him, we're in trouble. Like, really, we're in trouble. And he's like, no, it'll be great. We'll do this, we'll do that. And
I
Cody's
think
like,
I think it's more likely Cody probably offered it Tony an ultimatum and said it's either him or me.
yeah, because those contract negotiations didn't just fall apart when his contract happened to expire and he was working without a deal. That didn't happen that way.
Correct.
It was
But look at what happened since then. It was obviously a good move business wise for Cody. Look at where he's at now. He's on top of one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the company.
And that's a perfect segue actually into Payback because now it almost is assumed or was strongly hinted at that Cody got traded to SmackDown for Jey Uso. So, I mean, that's something we could maybe get into here in a minute.
I don't think he got traded. He's still on Raw.
Hey, we haven't had the Payback as a show it's been a couple of years, hadn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was a good spot for it.
But I had to say, I don't remember seeing one for several years.
This was the best Payback they ever did. I'll say that much. Granted,
it's a very low bar to reach.
Yeah, you're not asking for much at that point, but
it's like saying I'm the best guest star you've ever had on the show. That's a low ass bar, Ben.
You're the best and the worst at the same time, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get into this. This show opened with a steel cage match between Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, and what you could make a real argument was the match of the fucking weekend.
It was very good.
Absolutely, 100%. And Russ, quick note, you are correct. The previous Payback was in 2020 during the pandemic era. So the 2020 was what it was. Yeah, I thought this match, and I texted Ben this during the pay-per-view tonight. I told him, I said, I hate to say it, but I think this was probably the match of the entire weekend. There were a couple other really good matches, but I think overall this match was probably the best. When you consider the fact that Trish Stratus is 45 years old, which makes me feel incredibly old because I remember having her posters and things like that. But the fact that those two put on the match that they did, and then the end of the match, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
And if that was not them strapping a rocket to Zoe Stark's ass.
Absolutely it was. Absolutely, 100%. But I think just the storytelling in that match, the fact that that was the third match between the two, they settled it in a cage. It felt like a finale for those two at least. And now I'm interested to see where Trish goes from here.
She's back full time now.
She is, yeah. I'm interested to see. Does she start feuding with Zoe Stark? Does she go after somebody like Rhea Ripley? Does she go? Does she go on to? Does she make a SmackDown appearance and go for
I
Oscar
think
or
it's a
Charlotte?
Zoe feud at Survivor Series. I think that's the logical next stop.
I think that's the logical option too, but every time I think WWE is gonna go the logical route, they don't. So, which is part of the magic of pro wrestling. But I thought overall this was the match of the weekend. I thought my runner up match was Omega versus Takeshita tonight. I thought that match just was so fucking good. Like that was such a good match, and I like the fact that Takeshita got the win over Omega. I think storyline wise that makes sense. You have Kenny lose, and they pointed it out on commentary. He's been losing a lot of matches without Don Callis, and then I thought the third best match of the weekend was Rollins versus Nakamura. I thought that match was just a really hard hitting match. Again, I thought that there were several really good near falls in that match that really made me think, "Oh my God, Nakamura is going to win this match," and it just makes me wonder how long Seth Rollins is going to wrestle before he gets back surgery.
Yeah.
I think that might be an angle, but
Uh,
I don't know why they do that as an angle, but
if it's an angle, it's a weird angle. Like,
I
but
mean, they've done weirder. What
I
wasn't
suppose
so great, it was fine. It was good. It wasn't bad. LA Knight versus The Miz. This started with Cena coming out, and he was the host of the show, and big
Right.
hoop,
After the first match was over.
right? Because Becky won, and then Trish turned on Zoe, and Zoe hit her with the Z360. Then here comes
Trish
Johnny
was
Boy.
bruised up pretty good. They was obviously working pretty stiff. You
Yeah,
notice the bruises?
yeah, big welt on her head. Uh, so Cena comes out and he's talking, and he spins this into being the special guest referee for LA Knight versus The Miz.
Right.
This match did not need a special guest referee.
Not really.
this
Eh,
match didn't. Let me talk to you. This
yeah,
match didn't need to be on the card.
well, that
This
too.
could have been a pre-show match.
I mean, when you put The Miz in there, I lose interest immediately for the most part. Um,
You still can't believe that he's a two-time WWE champion, can you?
I believe it because I watched it, but if you
Great
told
line.
me,
Had some great lines though. I mean,
He
tell
did.
John Cena that he dresses like the Teletubbies. Yeah. That
He's
was
like,
well,
his line was, I've got on a $10,000 suit, John, and you dress like a Teletubby."
right.
well, anyway, LA Knight gets the win here. John was a
Right.
terrible special guest referee. I thought John was awful in this match.
Yeah, nothing to write home about, I guess. This went exactly the way I predicted that it would. I'm
LA
sitting,
Knight won and got a rub from John Cena.
that's right. But my wife was sitting there cheering for the Miz. She absolutely, not so much that she loves the Miz, but she hates LA Knight. Absolutely despises them.
Speaking of things I hate,
I also
like the
think
Miz.
too that I don't have any sources. I'm not, hearing this internally or anything. Just my personal feeling based on what happened last night. Don't be surprised if technically they make LA Knight into a face. He's technically a heel, but given how over he is,
Oh
I
yeah.
think I think this is going to be the start of his face turn.
I believe that. Speaking of things that aren't great, Austin Theory was in the next match, which is always turn off my TV level heat.
Oh,
Uh,
this is the go to the bathroom match.
Rey
Go to the
Mysterio, Austin
bathroom.
Theory. Dude, I feel so bad for Rey Mysterio. He tried so hard to make this match good, and he just couldn't do it. Ray really wanted this match to be good, and then he realized I'm in here with a fucking moron, and I can't.
Well, Ray did everything he could, and I'd have to give it about a C. It wasn't egregiously horrible, but it really didn't stand out on the card.
which is every Austin Theory match ever. If you've seen one, you've seen, well, all of them. Anyway, we move on into the Steel City Street Fight as Ray retained the title, by the way. No
Yes,
surprise there.
Ray did retain.
We had a Steel City Street Fight for the WWE tag titles.
Right.
This was everything I wanted it to be, pretty much. It was chaos.
And I enjoyed the Penguins jerseys. That was funny.
I will say I thoroughly enjoyed two things about this match. One, Kevin Owens at one point had a Terry Funk shirt on, and
Yeah.
then at one point they did the classic Terry Funk thing where you put the garbage can on the guy's head and you smash the garbage can with a hockey stick, a chair, or whatever. I thought that was a really nice touch and a fitting tribute to Terry Funk. So well done WWE, Kevin Owens, and that spot, because that was a
Kevin
really nice
Owens
spot.
wore about 14 different shirts in this match, by the way.
Especially given the fact that Kevin Owens also donned a crimson mask. That was another nice Terry Funk kind of tribute too. So it was a really nice the Terry Funk aspect of the match I really enjoyed. I thought that was a nice kind of homage, and knowing that Triple H is in charge and this was a good spot to be able to have a hardcore match and pay tribute, and do little things and spots and angles within the match to pay tribute to Terry Funk. I thought was really nice.
Do you guys agree with the finish of having the Judgment Day win the titles? I think they almost had to.
It makes sense.
It was either do this or break them up. I mean,
I personally, I'm split on it. Like, I love Sammy and KO. I think it makes sense from the point of view of, yes, now you have the Judgment Day and everybody in the entire company is going to be coming for them because they have almost all the titles. But I almost wish they wouldn't have won more, because I wanted to see what would have happened with that discourse if they hadn't won. Like, they had a chance to do like some bloodline level discourse stuff.
Yeah.
they still could. They
Then
still could.
They could. And then you also had, yeah, and then you also had JD McDonough come in, so that's another
right.
part you could play. You could have, McDonough trying to push his way in, and like Damian Priest gets jealous or whatever, and
They could still do that. The titles don't stop them.
And they could, but
especially not the tag titles. The tag titles.
I'm not upset about it, but I would have liked to have seen Sammy and KO retain. But I see why they did it. I'm not upset about it. I could go either way on it, but I just, as a storyline wise, I wanted to see Sammy and Kevin retain because I love Sammy and KO, but also because I wanted them to kind of prod a little deeper at that Judgment Day thing.
Right.
And
well, I think my favorite spot was when Rhea, when she put Owens through the barricade.
There. Yeah, I told Ben, I said that was like the worst. That was the worst spear I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was a shoulder tackle at best.
Right.
By the way, Devlin, I want you to know, I didn't watch this show live, so I was trying to figure out what you were talking about as I was watching the show later. So I was like, because I was watching the show at like 3 a.m, and I was like, what fucking spear is he talking about? Because I didn't even realize that's what Rhea did, because I thought she actually just shoulder tackled him.
Right. But at the same time, I was kind of surprised with her with the big match coming up that she would have risked that,
Dude, Rhea Ripley is like trying to carry this company on her back, I swear to God, because this woman interferes in this tag match, right? They go to like the video package for her and Raquel, and then Rhea's right back out there again like 30 seconds later, and I'm like, dude.
I do also want to point out one other thing. If you for fans of the Attitude Era who were paying close attention, for those of you who may or may not have noticed, Rhea Ripley's outfit last night was a homage and a tribute to the late Joni Laurer China, and I thought that was a nice touch as well.
I
So
did. I thought I realized that, but I was like, "There's no way they let her do that," but they did.
yeah, it's almost the exact same. There's a couple of differences, but the design pattern was the same. But I personally would like to see an angle where they have Rhea Ripley basically like be the leader of the Judgment Day. Finn Balor's the leader,
No,
but
Rhea's the leader now, dude.
they
If you
they,
watch the way they're interacting on Raw,
they had a backstage segment last week where Rhea was like, if the Judgment Day doesn't win titles at the pay-per-view, you know, there's going to be changes that need to be made. Like that's something the leader of the group said. She wasn't going to say that if she wasn't the leader of the group. So I think giving her the leader of the group position is a really smart thing by WWE.
well, they almost had to, right? Because one, she's the most over person on Raw, other than Cody. Uh, two,
Yeah,
yeah, two,
yeah.
two. You could argue at this point that if Cody was to get injured, go to SmackDown, whatever might happen, Rhea Ripley would be the top person on Raw, period. And
Yeah.
it would be Rhea and then everybody else on down the line.
It would be Jey Uso and then Rhea on the same level, which is saying a lot about Rhea. I'm not trying to discount Jay. I'm saying that's a huge boost for Rhea to be on the level of Jey Uso. So
Well, I think she's on Cody's level right now. I mean, listen to the reaction she's getting.
yeah, I think in terms of the women's division, yeah, she's the Cody Rhodes of the women's division right now, hands down, 100% agree.
I think it's her number one and Becky too. And then it's everybody else. And clearly that's where they're going with this whole thing is it's going to be Rhea and Becky at some point, and they're keeping those two away from each other. And
Yes.
I hope they save that for Mania. I would honestly not mind seeing Becky win the Rumble, and then they do her and Rhea at Mania.
I I honestly like if that's what they're doing and or that's what they're going to do, I want that to main event night one. Honestly, it's not going to main event night two because you're going to have Roman and Cody do it, and Cody's finally going to beat Roman. But I want that match if that's what they're going to do. I want that to main event night one because
I mean,
that's
what else could
those
they do for a
those
women's
women
match?
deserve it. That's a story that kind of you're not going to get bad performances from either one of those people. They're both over as hell. So, you book that match and you go, okay, here you got 6 to 8 weeks to build the story. Go out there and give us gold.
And I think, we talk about, oh, who's untouchable in terms of even if they're booked poorly, they're still going to get a massive reaction. Rhea and Becky are like top two, just most untouchable fucking characters. Because you could try to bury Becky all you want, and they did. And guess what? It's not going to fucking matter because it's Becky Lynch and
Cody Rhodes is on that level. Seth Rollins is on that level. There's a handful of people that are on that level. But yes, I agree with you. I wouldn't mind seeing Becky Lynch win the women's Rumble, and then they say, okay, here you got Fastlane or whatever Elimination Chamber, whatever fucking pay per view they want to do in February, and then whatever they
No
do in
Way
March.
Out, please. Can we get a No Way Out?
Yeah, can I get a backlash, please? I will take a backlash. I'll take a Great American Back. I'm just kidding.
Take a Great American Bash for 500, Alex.
I would
Yes.
like I would like a New Blood Rising in March, please. I'm just kidding. But that's a match that I think
NWO sold out in Cedar
Yeah.
Rapids, Iowa for 300.
I think that that's a big enough match that, and Hunter knows this, and I think that's a smart decision, and I think it's one that's realistic because Hunter, both of those people are NXTers. Hunter, we know, protects NXTers. He gives them better storylines. He loves his NXTers. It wouldn't
Which is why
surprise me
I
if
always thought Joe should have gone back to fucking WWE when he went to AEW once Hunter took over, because if he'd have gone back to WWE, he'd probably be the world heavyweight champion right now.
yeah, I think that match just makes a lot of sense to main event night one. And honestly, if we get that match and it doesn't main event, I'll still love it and it'll still be a banger and a great match. I think it deserves to main event night one even more than Jay versus Jimmy. And that's my hot take.
I want to point out that if you look at Hunter's booking in this first year, it is very similar to his first year of booking at NXT,
It is,
which
yeah.
which you could draw a lot of parallels there of, oh, that's interesting. He did this. So what I'm thinking is Hunter has a framework that worked in NXT, and he says, well, it worked there and we were doing better than the main roster. Now I actually have the main roster to play with. Oh, I can move with this.
Right.
And everybody wanted to shit on him for the whole Roman beating Cody at WrestleMania. I don't think that was his decision alone. I think everybody was kind of in agreement on that. And I think, and I had heard, and it had gotten reported that even Cody was okay with it. Even Cody was like, yeah, I get it. Storyline, whatever.
I I was upset about it at the time, but storyline wise now where they're at, I could I could see where they could go. I don't know where they will go, but I could see where they could go. So you've got Jey Uso, he's on Raw, so he's out of the equation. You've got Jimmy, Solo, and Roman. Eventually, I think what's going to happen is they're going to tell a story of Solo and Jimmy turning on Roman, betraying Roman, Roman becoming paranoid with them. Pick your poison. And
Yeah.
they're going to go their separate ways. And when I say that, I mean away from Roman. So what happens now when you get Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania 40 and nobody's there to help Roman retain? What happens when you don't get that Solo Sikoa interference? So I was upset about it at the time, and I was like, oh, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think Cody should have won. Storyline wise, where we're at now, I think it makes a lot of sense if they decide to have Jimmy take on Jay and they focus on that and they break him away from Roman, or if Solo turns on Roman or Roman turns on Solo, or they give Solo something else, whatever. If you have Roman be by himself going into Mania, to me, that makes the most sense.
Here's the thing. I think Jey Uso, because here's the thing. In storyline, Jay quit the company. In
Yes.
storyline. So if we're working on storyline logic here, Jay quit. And off camera, and I understand why this was off camera, something happened where Cody got a hold of Jay and said, hey, I want you to come back, but I want you to be on Raw. Here's the deal. Here's what we need to do. And they pulled the trigger. That's in storyline. They've almost somewhat aligned Jay with Cody now. And they kind of teased that, okay, Jay and Cody are kind of on the same page. What I think this ends up being, similar to Devlin's idea, but a little different. What I think ends up happening is going into Mania, Cody will have his faction of Jay, Owens. I almost called him Steen, by the way.
Yeah.
Owens, Zayn. That will be one.
And
then,
yeah, Kevin Steen.
And then there's a lot of smoke around Jacob Fatu potentially going to WWE very, very soon. So I think it could be Roman, Solo, Jimmy, and Jacob Fatu for the bloodline. If that happens, first of all, I think you're going to have a massive 6-man tag somewhere on that card. And then what I think you probably do on the other thing there is you probably have Cody and Roman main event night two. But I think they're going to do Jimmy and Jay at the Rumble. And I think that's where maybe Jacob Fatu comes in, is the Rumble. I think you do Jimmy and Jay at the Rumble, and then that's where Jacob comes in. If that's what they're going to do.
Helps Jimmy beat Jay and then aligns with Roman and Solo.
Because Jacob Fatu is a natural heel. So,
So where are you putting Kevin Steen?
I think it's him and Zayn against.
You mean no? You mean El Generico?
Well, him and
I'm being a smart ass.
El Generico and Kevin Steen, yeah.
Well, anyway, we got off track big time there. Seth
away with was bringing in Jay, and
yeah,
that was the big surprise they were rumored to have.
What was that?
That was one of the surprises they were rumored to have.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Jay's on Raw.
Right.
The one thing I do want to see, and granted, I'm not over the Bloodline story, but I disagree. I think Paul Heyman's lying when he says we're in the bottom of the third inning. I think it's more like the seventh inning. But one thing I do want to see, and I'll be interested to see how they do it, and I'll just hit this point real quick, and then we can move on. I want to see how they bring in Rikishi, because this storyline has a naturally built in for Rikishi. He's made weird like Instagram comments about things. He's posted on things. They always talk about the elders, things like that. Like you've got son versus son. It's a natural kind of coming of the ways for them to bring Rikishi in some way, even just for an appearance, and take this feud to another level. So
I don't think he comes in, but I could be totally wrong about that. I've been wrong before. Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. We already talked about this match a little bit. I thought this match was really good. Seth retains the title. I disagreed with that only because if this back injury is real, they probably should have just took the belt off him. Even if you're only going to have Nakamura hold it for 3 months. I mean,
Seth's apparently had this back injury for like a year and a half, though.
I mean, if he can work with it, but
he said he's in constant pain every single day, and it's worse other days than some. But I disagree with you. I think especially kind of what I talked about earlier about like the video package that WWE did, the way they presented Nakamura in this feud made me think that he was actually going to beat Seth Rollins. Like they had him, for the most part, go over on Rollins almost every chance they got, and they made him look like, just this really big heel who was going to take Rollins out, and then Rollins won. And I wasn't disappointed by it because I love Seth Rollins. I understand why they did it, but I would have gone a different way. I agree. I hate to say this more than anything, but I agree with you, Ben. They 100% should have. But I also think that tells you what they think of Nakamura. Like they think he's good enough to be in the main event, but they don't think he's good enough to be a world champion.
Who knows?
Which is how I think they look at Jey Uso too. Like I think they look at him as a main event level guy, but I don't think they look at him as a guy that they can go, okay, we're going to put the title on him. He's going to go do all the media and the press and all this kind of stuff and carry the company, even if it's only 3 months. And again, it's a hard situation because the guy doesn't speak English super well. So if you have a guy who's an international guy and you're trying to have him do PR, it can be tough. So there is that aspect, and I get that. I don't think that should factor in, though, and I don't think it did, but it is something that's kind of interesting to note.
Well, let's phase into All Out here. We've got a lot left to talk about because we've got a whole nother segment after this. But
hey, I want to hear from Russ.
Yeah, about which one?
About
what'd you think of the Payback pay-per-view, Russ, just in general, and then also what'd you think of the main event?
I'd give it a B. I was kind of halfway expecting Shinsuke Nakamura to pull it off. Like you, I kind of was led that way, but I it makes sense how they did it the way they did. Uh, just 6 matches, I thought this pay-per-view, the pace of it was pretty good.
This show was only 3 hours, guys.
Yeah, that's about. I think that's about the right length for a pay-per-view premium event, whatever. And yeah, it's just about enough. When they go longer than that, I start getting antsy.
Well, speaking of longer than that,
Yes, we knew it was going to be.
this All Out show was ungodly.
Did anybody watch the 2 matches on the pre-show?
There was 3, and no, I didn't.
I saw the last one, which was the Acclaimed with Billy Gunn, with Dennis Rodman in their corner, versus Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sonam Singh, with Karen Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt. They claimed one, believe it or not. There was all sorts of foolishness going on. If you're not a big Jeff Jarrett fan, you probably wouldn't like it. It looked
How's
like
that, slap nuts?
it looked like a really, really good 1990s match. Let's put it that way.
Like this would have been a perfect main event for Road Wild '98 WCW. I mean,
Exactly.
even down to the Rodman guitar shot spoilers on Jeff Jarrett,
Right.
and that helped the Acclaim win the match. Like this had Vince Russo WCW booking written all
It
over.
sure did. It sure did.
Did they hire Vince? Did they
just-
secretly hire Vince Russo?
Just screwy book. I mean, I get it. It's the pre-show. Very few people watch it or care about it, but I guess I'd rather have Dennis Rodman on the pre-show than actually
Right.
give time on the main event or on the main show. So I get it.
Now, guys, we're going to kind of breeze through these next 2 matches because I didn't see them.
Okay.
I just had connection issues the whole fucking time. So I heard the Dark Order Adam Cole MJF match was fine.
Yeah, it was okay.
It was good. They did their MJF got injured. I'm not going to say early, but about a quarter to halfway through this match, they hit him in the neck with a chair, and he kayfabe obviously left and went to the back to leave Adam Cole fighting against the Dark Order by himself. And I had texted Ben. I said, "How much you want to bet Roddy comes out and helps Adam Cole, wins the match, they win the belts, and then Roddy's staking his claim, and
Right.
and then that division deepens, and then all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, MJF comes back out. So what do I know?" But
Yeah.
it was
Well-
a good match. They did the kangaroo kick. They did the double clothesline. It was a typical better than you, baby
Yeah.
match, and it was fine.
It was all right, and they're Adam Cole's old buddies. They're part of the storyline now too. It kind of, I had forgotten that Matt Taven and Michael Bennett actually knew how to talk. We haven't heard him talk. It feels like it's been a couple of years since we actually heard him speak a word, And actually, Roderick Strong, I like his new gimmick with the neck breaks, which I think, they're playing it as a gimmick, and I think it's pretty good. I hope they do something more with the Kingdom and all of that stuff.
So, Joe versus Taylor. I know this
Yeah.
match was good, but I also heard it was way too short.
It was short.
This was your epitome of big man slapping man meat match. Like this was your Wardlow versus yeah. I mean this was your Wardlow versus Big Bill match. This is your Big E versus Brock match. Like big men slapping man meat. That's what this match was. It was nothing great. It was not, I mean Joe was never gonna lose his title. It was a good match. Joe won with the coquina clutch like he always does, but it was an okay match.
Speaking of okay, and I would actually argue this match was a little less than okay, Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin. This did not work for me.
A little less than okay. I would agree with that.
I I think the reason, at least in my opinion, that this match didn't work is all the focus had been on Christian Cage leading up to this match. Christian was obviously, doing all the talking and doing all the insulting and this and that and the other. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, Luchasaurus gets in the ring. I mean, if you're a casual AEW fan who doesn't watch it all the time, who bought this pay-per-view, you might be going, why is Christian holding the belt, but Luchasaurus is wrestling for in his, so it just, it was a, it was a weird match. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It didn't do much for me, but I don't think it worked.
What did work, at least for me, was Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs. This was fucking great.
This was a lot of fun. I
This was
enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed this. I thought getting this was the first CJ Parker thing of the night, so I really enjoyed that. This was the first cameo by CJ Parker of the night, and I
He beat
enjoyed
CJ
that.
Perry, not Parker.
CJ Perry, whatever. CJ Perry, CJ Parker. And
CJ
then
Parker was Juice Robinson's name in NXT.
yes, he was exactly. Um, I'm almost like I love the match. It almost takes it down a notch for me the way it ended, only because like I've seen this story before in WWE. Like, are they going to bring Bobby Lashley in and she's going to have an affair with Bobby Lashley and then Miro's just going to like kick the crap out of him and then somebody's going to like move on to another feud? Like, are
I
they
don't
going
know, but
like
he gave her the cold shoulder.
he did. He did.
I don't know whatever he's going
But
through with.
when he
You
came
know,
back, I understand why they did that part, because when he came back, he cut a promo saying he disowned everyone and he included his wife
that's
in that.
right. He was out. He was on the outs with God and his double jointed wife.
I think her music, when they show it up on the big board, it says hot and flexible, which I think is a interesting uh interesting thing to use.
Sounds like a good name for an aerobics class.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Um, I
we're
I
gonna move
do
on
I
from
do
that
want to
before
say
I make a bad joke.
I do want to say one more thing about that match. I found it interesting that you guys just talked about how he renounced her and all that stuff when he came back. After that match happened, she tweeted out a picture and tagged Miro with the caption, "I'm not the kind of woman you renounce."
Oh, okay, good.
So that seems to be the way they're going with that storyline. So it'll be interesting to see in the days, weeks, months ahead where they take that. So
Hmm.
well, Chris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. When I tell you I didn't give a flying fuck about this match because they didn't make me care, I didn't give a flying fuck.
this match for me, I came in not caring about it, and by the end, I was really invested in this match. Like
It was
these two
fine. It wasn't a
these two
bad match.
women, like I'm a big proponent of book the women's divisions better on both companies. Like we just need more women's wrestling overall. This match, like I didn't care about it coming into the match because like you said, there was absolutely no build to it. I had no
Right,
emotional investment in it. But some of the spots that they did, especially the Tony Storm thing at the end,
right.
really, really, really was a nice touch. I thought it was well booked. I thought it was well written and done. And at the end, I really cared about that. I cared about the match. Like I wanted to see Ruby Soho get her comeuppance. I wanted to see how Chris Statlander was going to overcome the outcasts. Like this is one of the few matches that I went into not caring about, and at the end of it, they made me care about it. So kudos to them.
I'm with you. I really enjoyed the little turn of events at the end with Tony Storm. I'm interested. There's going to be some conflict in that
There is.
And I think Tony Storm is going to break out as a babyface. That's what I predict
I
is
think
going to
Soraya
happen.
is going to be the baby face here.
Okay, all right, that would be all right too.
After
I
what they
just
did last week,
I I think it was interesting that last week Tony Storm had a backstage interview with Renee Paquette, and she asked her, she's like, "How are you feeling after All In?" And Tony Storm was like, "Well, look, I'm happy Saraya won. Like, I'm really happy for her. It's great." But she kind of did her own thing. She's like, and she was basically saying like, so she won the title, so I can't trust her, and she was saying like Ruby Soho's doing her own thing, and I can't trust her either, and I don't know what to do, and she's kind of doing this like Southern Belle kind of thing, not to the Lacey Evans extent where it's worn out,
right,
but like, oh, I've got the vapors, and then he's gonna like come back with a vengeance. I agree with Russ 100%, and I think it's a smart decision for them to have Tony Storm be the one who turns on Soraya and Ruby Soho, because I would love to see Britt Baker or Jamie Hayter or Chris Statlander team up with Tony Storm to take on Ruby Soho, Saraya, even Mercedes. Like, I would love to see if they can make it happen. Mercedes Monet versus Tony Storm. Like, that's a
I could
match
see
I would pay.
Mercedes coming in. I could
yeah,
see
I would
Mercedes
love.
coming in and going into this group. Mercedes is
I
a
that'd
natural
be a
fit
money
here.
match.
like I would love to see that, but like I completely agree with Russ. I think 100% Tony's going to break off and become the baby face. It logically where they're at storyline wise, especially with what happened tonight with the spray paint, I think it just makes sense.
Her promos in recent weeks, in my opinion, have been just excellent. Tony Storm,
Absolutely.
her stock is rising in my book.
And one thing I that just kind of popped into my head that's random, but I do want to bring it up is I think it's interesting when you look at WWE versus AEW, how they look at international wrestlers. Like, you look at how AEW books international wrestlers. Tony Storm's real strong. Pac was the international champion for a while. You've had people from other countries who have held major titles or who have been in major storylines. Whereas WWE is kind of hesitant to do that because, Dinosaur Vince doesn't want people who can't speak very good English,
Right,
Shinsuke Nakamura, to be the champion and this and that
right.
and the other. And I think that it's such an old, outdated mindset to have, but I think it's really refreshing to see, somebody with an Australian accent being one of the top people in the women's division. I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
They're
really
as
right.
poorly booked as the entire division is.
absolutely, but the like right now, the champion in the women's division in AEW is from England, and the Ring of Honor champion is African American. Like, that wouldn't happen in WWE. It would be like the Bellas twins or like Tiffany Stratton, or like it would be the most generic person in WWE. Whereas in AEW, you get that different flavor and that different culture, and with that comes
Sure.
the accents and the move sets and skill sets and stuff. So I really enjoy that.
Well, what else I really enjoyed, even though this had virtually no build because they basically had to shoot an angle last night, they had to hotshot
Right.
book this thing. Ricky
Plus, I
Star.
love uh, just one real quick thing. Plus, I love the fact that Tony Storm, in that same backstage interview with Renee Paquette, when asked about what she thought about the match at All In, said everything was fine until everything went tits up. That made me
Yeah,
pop so hard. Like, I love that.
Well,
absolutely.
what did not pop me was the fact that apparently we're still doing this Ricky Steamboat angle with Starks.
See, now
Could,
I
could have
so
fooled
he,
me.
so here's what I thought. This was obviously going to be the CM Punk match on the card if he hadn't gotten fired.
Right.
Obviously, I thought it was actually a clever twist for them to promote it as Ricky Starks versus the Dragon,
Right.
not necessarily Ricky Steamboat. Like,
That
I
was
thought that leaving it as Ricky Starks versus the Dragon was smart because that was their way in to bring Danielson back in, as opposed to having him be like a special referee in the match and interfering in
Yes.
this and the other. So I actually thought that that was a really sneaky way to get him into that match, and I really enjoyed that little twist.
Now, how late do you think they called Danielson like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? What are you doing? Do you do you want to wrestle? Do you want to have a match at the United Center in Chicago the day after a fucking company disaster?"
Well, I'm glad he stepped in because it really was a good. It was a good addition. I think that I'm sure there were people in the crowd that were pissed off, but the crowd didn't seem overly hostile. I think they had calmed down. From what I understand, when Tony Khan made his personal announcement, he got a lot of boos. But I think maybe he did that to just kind of siphon off some of the heat away from the wrestlers.
Oh, they weren't
On
just
him,
booing him, by the way. There was CM Punk chants in the building that they were also trying to boo down.
Yeah, I didn't catch any of that. I imagine they probably had to take some signs away too. That wouldn't
Yeah,
shock me.
they were actually. I actually sent this to Ben. I saw it on X. I'll try to find it here, but it was actually reported that security was not letting people in with CM Punk shirts on. They had to either take them off or turn them inside out, and they were confiscating all CM Punk signage. So, um, but going back to Brian Danielson, Wrestling Observer newsletter reported that Brian Danielson was told he could return in October, and he returned tonight. So that was obviously a really nice nice
Clearly, they knew. I think they knew when he was coming back right along and fed the Observer bad information on purpose,
I I 100% think they did.
which they do that all the time, by the way. These companies will feed these dirt sheets, and it's the same in business. They feed business insiders bad information all the time. It is the way the world works. It is what it is. But I agree with you. I think this match was very good. I don't think this was Danielson's originally planned spot. I would not be surprised if the original plan was for him to be in that tag match instead of Wheeler Yuta. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plan. But they changed it, and it sounds like they may be starting to break Danielson off from the Blackpool Combat Club if he's going to go to Collision. So we'll see how they do that. If it's just another division of the Blackpool Combat Club, because they've kind of got the ROH division with Claudio and Wheeler, the Dynamite side with,
Mm-hmm.
Mox and what the fuck's his name? Danielson.
Speaking of Brian Danielson, completely random and off topic, but he was Danielson joined Powerhouse Hobbs for the Power Hour at Starcast. And did you read that link that I sent you, Benny, about that?
No.
Let's just put it this way: the talk wasn't specifically about wrestling. They talked a lot about flaccid penises, and
Really?
yes, and Brian Danielson's quote was, "Flaccid penises are funny. Is flaccid penis talk my legacy now?" So it was if you enjoyed just kind of how weird and out there Brian Danielson is about certain things,
Yeah.
definitely worth a read. But yeah, I agree with you. I think he was obviously going to be in the Wheeler Yuta spot. I think that
Yeah.
once they made the decision to fire CM Punk, they had to bring somebody in who's just as big a name as CM Punk was for this match, especially given the fact that how much they had hyped that they had Ricky with CM Punk on TV. And they had the Steamboat thing, and I mean, it wasn't. They
By
weren't
the
gonna.
way,
They weren't gonna bring in some slappy. I texted this to Ben too. I said one of the things
Yeah.
that made me really happy about this match was that there are people who are casual wrestling fans that probably watch that show or casual AEW fans that probably ended up looking up Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and they're like, "Who is this guy?" And hopefully, they end up watching my second favorite match of all time, which is Steamboat versus Savage at WrestleMania 3 for the Intercontinental title. Like that's my second favorite match ever. I hope people, I think AEW does a good job with guys like him and Paul Ellering and Jake the Snake Roberts, bringing a lot of these legends back and not having them do too much, but also giving them enough exposure where fans who may not know their work can look it up and go, okay, yeah, these guys were legit back in the day.
You got it.
You know what was funny? The first couple of times Steamboat was on AEW TV, it didn't look like he wanted to be there. But tonight it kind of did.
The thing that impresses me the most about Steamboat is he can still go.
Yeah.
Like that dude's 70 years old, and he's only a few years younger than Ric Flair, and they look totally different in the ring. Like obviously, Steamboat didn't live the Ric Flair lifestyle for 60 years like Ric Flair has, but or
I
50, whatever it is. But Ricky Steamboat wrestled a match as recently as a year and a half ago at age 70, and he looked good.
wow.
He held his own. So, you
Yeah.
know,
I
kudos to Tony,
I
kudos
think
to them.
he's one of the rare occasions too of a wrestler who never in his career did he ever work heel. That's
Yeah,
very unusual. He was babyface all the time.
What I think,
absolutely.
what
That
I
That's a
hardly
think,
ever
great,
happens.
and
that's a great point.
I don't know Steamboat's contract situation. I know he's not on good terms with WWE right now, especially not after this. Um, and he hasn't been for a while. That was kind of always a misnomer of, oh, Ricky Steamboat will never fall out of their good graces again. Oh, he did because he wanted to do more and they wouldn't let him, and then he left. Um,
You got to think Bret Hart's probably in that position too. I mean, he appeared on AEW TV and held up the AEW championship. So, but like, I mean, this is a little bit before your time, Ben, but I mean, Russ probably remembers this. There was a time when people thought that Bruno Sammartino would never appear on WWE programming again or never
I
be associated with WWE
I
because of the way his situation with the company ended. Well,
yeah, had
Triple
a
H
big
can work.
falling out.
Yeah, and Triple H can work wonders. And Hunter's biggest saying is never say never in the wrestling business. And would I like to see Ricky Steamboat back in WWE? Yeah, absolutely. That's where he made his name. But
Right.
if he's not, if he goes to AEW, it's not like he's tarnishing his legacy. He's still a Hall of Famer. He's still one of the greats of all time. But I would say just never say never, because there was a point, like I said, I'm sure that Russ remembers, where a lot of people thought that you know that he was never going to appear in WWE again. And you're talking about a guy who was the champion for 7 years in a row. I mean, he held the belt for 7 consecutive years, and that's a long run. Same with Harley Race and guys like that.
Right.
Like WWE screwed over a lot of those old dudes, and they swore they'd never come back, and they made it back. So
Right.
I just I don't know what the deal with Steamboat and his contract is, but if I'm AEW, I'm capitalizing on this
Well,
and I'm
sure.
trying to figure out a way to keep Starks and Steamboat together. Maybe as a feud, maybe you slowly start to turn Ricky back babyface. Maybe you have Steamboat kind of be the guy trying to push him towards being a good guy again.
Yeah.
It could be a battle for respect type thing where it's like a I don't like you, you don't like me, but this is what, because Steamboat would not get in there and do what he did with Starks tonight with just anybody. Like clearly Steamboat likes Starks. That
right.
And do you know what? When Tony called Steamboat, I wouldn't be surprised if he asked Steamboat, "Hey, who do you want to work with?" and he said Starks. Would
Yeah.
you be that surprised if that's how that conversation went? Like, I want to work Starks, dude. If I'm gonna come in, like, fine, but let me work Starks.
Yeah, I would.
Well,
One thing I do want to point out that we missed that I think was a really nice callback is I really enjoy when when companies do callbacks, especially when it's an inter-brand callback, is right after the Better Than You Bay Bay match and before the Samoa Joe match. MJF was walking back up the ramp and Joe came down and shoved him. And that was the same shove that he gave him when MJF was a security guard for a backstage segment in NXT. And MJF actually tweeted about that. I'm not the kid you shoved in Brooklyn, motherfucker. Game on. So that's feud MJF versus Samoa Joe. It's a callback to that little 5-second thing, but it seems to be that's the way that WWE.
I would not be surprised if it's Joe and MJF at Full Gear. Let me put it that way.
I would not hate that at all.
That kind of adds up to me.
Give me that match.
Let's blow through the rest of this card so we can do the one other segment we wanted to do tonight, and then
Sure.
Yeah. And the rest of this card is fairly blow-by worthy because not a lot of it's noteworthy here. We had Blackpool Combat Club against Eddie Kingston and Shibata. This was a good match, not great. Combat Club won, kind of what you expect. Is what it is. I still want Kingston versus Moxley. I think that's probably where we're headed.
I still want Kingston versus Claudio.
That'll never happen. That's never going to happen.
Too personal, maybe.
Takeshita versus Omega, like Dev said, this was one of the better matches of the weekend. I really liked this match. I do think, however, that if the idea is, and I know this was the idea at one point for Omega to be the one to beat MJF, they're doing a pretty poor job of executing that if that's still their plan.
Yeah. I think they've switched from that. I think it's clearly obvious, especially since they brought it up on TV, how many losses Kenny's had since Don turned on him, that they're making some storyline where Kenny can't win singles matches or matches in general without Don Callis in his corner. And that's a storyline that I want to see. I want to see where they go with that, if that's indeed what they do.
I think it ultimately ends with Kenny and Don back together, by the way. I do.
I agree with you. I think it's going to end up with Kenny turning on the
Elite.
Yeah, well, no, Takeshita, I think he's going to turn on him and join Kenny again. So,
yeah.
But overall, good match, hard hitting,
yeah,
really cool. It's a typical Kenny Omega match. Lots of cool high spots and good moves, but it was a good match. This was probably my favorite match on the card, honestly. I don't think it was the best match, but I think it was probably my favorite.
My least favorite match on this card was this 8-man tag match.
8-man tag. 8-man tag, and they got one referee with 8 guys.
I don't know the guy's name,
but he's the worst referee in the business, in my opinion. I call him Uncle Fester. I don't know what the guy's real name is, but he just stands around and waves his hands. And the poor guy, everybody ignores him. He has zero authority.
I think
this was a mess of a match. This was a clusterfuck.
But you could see it at various points where Jay White just knew this thing was fucked. And he was just like, oh, fuck it, do something. I don't care. I don't want to be in this match. What the fuck? I should have been in the main event.
Young Bucks and FTR wasn't exactly the most warm reunion in the world, was it?
No.
But it's interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with that rivalry from here on out,
But Bullet Club Gold gets the win.
Right.
I will say they work pretty well together as a team for whatever that's worth.
Right.
But
make better enemies than friends.
But Bullet Club Gold gets the win, which they needed. And you could tell at various points that Jay White was pretty frustrated with how this thing was going. He's just like, dude, this is bullshit. I don't know why we're even doing this. And speaking of bullshit and don't know why we're doing this, the main event of this fucking show.
Why was this the main event? To me, it doesn't seem like the biggest match of the card.
It definitely.
I agree. I think you should have switched this match with the Omega Takeshita match,
Yeah,
and I
that
think
probably should have been the main event.
that felt more like the main event to me than this match did.
Yeah,
That being said, I also think this match was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like
right,
this is another one of those matches where I was like, okay, it's going to be a match. Moxley's going to bleed. There's going to be some high spots and some
right.
hiccups from Orange Cassidy with his hands in his pocket, just like there always is. But again, this is another match where, and I'm not afraid to say it, John Moxley's my favorite AEW wrestler, but I this was one of those matches that I didn't really care a whole lot about, but it turned out to be way better in my opinion than I thought it was going to be.
But I want to point something out, and
Yeah, go ahead.
I texted you about this, Devlin. There was a camera shot right when Cassidy's music hit where they zoomed in on John's face, and the look on John's face just said,
Yeah,
why the fuck am I out here,
yeah,
dude?"
he definitely didn't look like he wanted to be in the ring with Orange Cassidy. Like, and
Or
to
in the
be
main
honest,
event. He's like, why the fuck is this the main event?
well, I mean, I think he wanted to be in the main event. I don't think he wanted to be in the main event versus Orange Cassidy.
For a
I
Yeah,
think
secondary title.
but at least now they've moved. Orange Cassidy's got a pretty good title reign, about 30 matches or so, 30 some undefeated,
32 matches. Yep.
32. There you go. And it made sense for the title to change.
And Mox was always,
I don't know. I'm still not quite sure why it's called the international title. When
and
you
I'm
consider
not sure why Mox just won a tertiary title. Like,
yeah,
that
it,
doesn't
it,
make a whole lot of sense to me.
but the way they book it, it's not really international in scope. You know what I mean? I mean
I,
the first longest reigning international title holder was from New Jersey. I don't think international when I think of the Jersey Shore.
I, I think this is going to be a placeholder title. I think Moxley's going to drop this title, and I think the person he's probably going to drop it to is going to be Pac because they've got history. Pac's got history with Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club, so
Sure.
I could very easily see them. I could see Buddy Matthews winning it. Give the House of
But
Black another
I want to
title.
ask you guys a question. Do you think the
There,
original main event of this show was Starks and Punk?
no, 100%, hundred
Yeah,
percent.
probably. Yeah, that was the plan.
I agree. I think
I
Starks and Punk.
So I'm thankful to Brian Danielson for stepping
They
in.
could have done Danielson and Starks in the main event.
absolutely,
That would
yeah.
have been, yeah. That
The
was
only
good.
one of the biggest problems I had with this show was the card placement or the
It was
match
all
placement.
over the place.
Like I think that the Takeshita Omega match or the strap match between Danielson and Starks would have been a better main event than what we got. I even texted Ben and said, like before the main event started, I was like, okay, if this is the main event, they're doing one of two things. Like either A, somebody's gonna debut, or B, they're gonna have some huge like something happen at the end. And Ben correctly said, no, they're just gonna go off the air. And they did. It felt very,
Do
very
you know why I
underwhelming.
said that? Because I knew that's what they were going to do because I'd heard that there's no big angle coming here. They're just going off the air. And I was like, okay, if that's what
I
we're
mean,
going to do.
the biggest day AEW does debuts really well. And when you have a pay-per-view, now granted this, and I texted Ben this too. I said this show overall to me felt like a way of getting everybody who couldn't be at all in on a pay-per-view. Like this was
Yeah.
Tony's way of saying like, hey, everybody, we couldn't fit all of you in the all-in card, so we're gonna give you a pay-per-view like the next week, so that way everybody's cool and nobody's feelings are hurt. What like that's what this whole show felt like to
This
me.
felt like DLC for All In. Really. It just,
Yeah, like an
Yeah.
expansion pack. Yeah,
this, you know what this felt like to me? This felt like an episode of Dynamite that just went on for like way too long.
like an Arthur Ashe style thing or something.
Even the Arthur Ashe shows are still only 2 hours.
If
I
you
don't know.
want an episode of Dynamite that goes on too long, they have one every Wednesday night. Every single Wednesday night. It's only a 2 hour show, but it feels like 3.
Sometimes, yes, it does. Dynamite lately has not been great. I will say that. Uh, which is weird because it used to be just consistently the best, but then they added Collision and Dynamite just took a massive slide. Which is weird. But anyway, All Out for me gets a C minus, and I think I'm being generous.
I'll give it a C.
I'll give it a C plus. I think that there were a couple good matches. I
Not
like I
worth the
said,
$50, I'll say that much.
the Omega Takeshita match was really good. The strap match was really good. You had some other decent matches. I think the women's match was better than a lot of people, including Meltzer, will give it credit for. I, and then there were just filler matches like the Miro match felt like a filler match. The Samoa Joe match felt like a filler match. Like it
The
was just
tag match at the beginning felt like it just didn't need to be there.
yeah, it was just. I give it a C plus because there were 3 or 4 matches that I thought were actually like the in ring product was pretty good. But definitely one of the lower pay per views for AEW. I think this is going to be an issue next year for Tony Khan as well. You're going to have to figure out
They're not going to be able to do this again. They're going to
how
have to
to go.
change it.
Well, he's going to have to do one of two things. He's either going to have to have a hard line in the sand and say, here's who's going to be on All In and here's who's going to be on All Out, because you can't have, you can't put all your chips into one show and then you can't come off the biggest wrestling show of all time with a show like this. This was a flat performance. Tony will never say that. Nobody else will, but it was a flat performance. Thankfully, they've got about a month until their next pay per view, and then they'll have another month or 6 weeks until Full Gear. So, give everybody some time to fix those storylines and everything. But they need to do something.
I am not looking forward to Wrestle Dream in the slightest.
Well, let's give it a chance. Let's see what they have, because if
Right.
I think a lot of people were saying that too about Forbidden Door, and then Forbidden Door turned out to be like one of the best pay-per-views AEW's ever done. So let's see what happens. It's we'll see what happens. Let's do that, because I have a feeling that if Mercedes Moné debuts, it's probably going to be at that event, only because it's a NJPW thing. So we'll see what happens.
Do you guys think that this show is worth $50? Because that's what they were charging for it. Was this show worth $50?
I think it's worth $50 to the people that are AEW fans that enjoy the product. I mean, it's kind of like collecting anything that you collect, whether it's comic books, baseball cards, whatever. Like people, if somebody says, "Hey, what's it worth?" It's worth whatever somebody will pay for it. If people think that the AEW All Out product is good and it's got matches they want to see, they'll pay $50 for it.
I think you're right.
You have to feel a little ripped off with the way tonight went off the air.
I will say it was underwhelming. Like if I had purchased this show, even being the hardcore AEW fan that I am, and I make no bones about it that I prefer AEW over WWE, I would feel underwhelmed. But then at the same time, I would also look at it and go, okay, in the last 2 weeks, I've spent $100 on All In and All Out. Did I get my money's worth overall? And the answer to that is yes.
I think what they're going to have to do next year is, if they can get a streaming deal somewhere, one of those has to be a streaming show on a streamer, and then the other one just be a pay-per-view. And I think that's probably what it's going to be by this time next year, but I understand why it wasn't this year. But I think one of those is going to have to be on like HBO Max or something.
I think I want to give Tony Khan credit, though, because even though this was a lackluster show, considering the week the company had, it could have been a whole lot worse. Even though it wasn't a great pay-per-view, it was a little better than I thought it would probably be. I didn't have high expectations.
especially
But
not coming off this week.
I mean, given the absolute chaos of not only just the logistics of running all in London,
oh
getting
yeah,
travel there, getting travel back, having
yeah,
people do Dynamite, having people do Collision, having people do Rampage, and then having to put on another major pay-per-view on Sunday. Like
yeah,
Russ said, what even if it's a C-level show from the three of us, kudos to them because that's something WWE even they would struggle with because it's
yeah.
such a tough thing to do in the world of professional wrestling. And then on top of it, you've got all the CM Punk drama going on. You lose probably the equivalent, at least in terms of star power, of like a Roman Reigns
Right,
right in the middle of the week. It could have thrown a wrench into everything,
right.
but kudos to the people that went out and performed because
It
it's
was,
it's definitely not
yeah.
easy.
And I will give kudos again to Tony Khan because it would have been very easy. We've got these shows sold out in Chicago. We'll just say the investigation is ongoing and not complete yet, and then we'll wait until Monday, and then I'll make the
Correct.
announcement. But
Correct.
he didn't. He
Yep.
he stuck to his guns, and
Yep.
and for like the first time, in my opinion, he really put his foot down and said, "This shit has got to stop right
Yep.
now." And
Yep.
and I'm sure it wasn't easy. And I respect him going to the Chicago crowd live to tell them that too,
Yeah.
because that deflected a lot of the heat off of the wrestlers onto him.
Well, I
I,
want
I
to.
will say one thing that I thought was funny tonight was that at one point, I believe it was during the 8-man tag match, the crowd was chanting "Cry Me a River." So I
That
thought
was
that was
hilarious.
Oh,
I thought that was rather humorous.
I see. I didn't catch it because I could usually when the crowd chants, I can't understand what the hell they're saying.
So, guys, this was going to be a longer segment, but Devlin gave me this idea for a segment tonight, and I want to do it, but we're going to trim it for time.
Sure.
What we're going to do is we're going to go around and just one match from either company with a small setup angle to get to it that you want to see at some point this year or next year. Just a
Well,
little
there go.
fancy.
Well, there goes half my notes
Why?
because I have like four matches for each.
Well, you can do the whole feud. Just we're 30 minutes over time right now, so let's.
All right.
Uh, well, we're not 30 minutes over time. We're about 15, but we're going to be 45 anyway. It doesn't matter. Uh, Devlin, I'm going to start with you because I think you're going to be the longest. Just
Because I'm a long-winded asshole. Yeah, I get it.
well, so am
Okay.
I. It's fine.
So my fantasy booking, I came up with this idea that like I wanted to do fantasy booking and I wanted to do it an intercompany thing and then matches within each company that we haven't seen. My number one fantasy booking match, if I'm Tony Khan and Triple H or Tony Khan and Vince, what is my main event for an AEW, WWE pay-per-view or PLE or whatever? It is Seth Rollins versus Kenny Omega for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yep, that would be the main event of that show. WWE versus AEW is always an interesting fantasy booking thing, and I think that feud has some natural heat there, and because those are two guys that are very much foot in the ground for their side, right? Kenny is very AEW and Seth is very WWE.
I yeah, yep. I do have an undercard too, but I'll let you guys share yours.
Russ, your WWE versus AEW kind of dream match.
Samoa Joe versus Gunther.
Ooh,
Talk about slapping the meat.
yeah, right.
I don't know how you'd get there with those two because they are both heels, but
Well, that's all right. We'll just break tradition. We'll have two heels go at it and just hope for a gloriously violent show.
That would be so good. That
it
would
would
be
be
so
so violent.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be.
My idea, I actually went with a women's match.
good. Okay.
Uh Jamie Hayter versus Rhea Ripley.
Oh yeah,
Ooh, yes.
very
Title
good.
for title. Put that belt
I
back on
was
Jamie.
I was thinking Chris Statlander versus Rhea actually was what I was thinking too, but I like
Well,
yours. I like yours more.
Because here's what you could do. Rhea is such a heel, but she gets cheered all the time, and Jamie is a mega baby face. Dude, that and those two would hit the shit out of each other.
yeah,
You know,
Dude, that match was just they'd kill
yeah.
each other. But I really do think that we'll never see it. You know what I mean? Unless WWE buys AEW, which I'm not going to say is never going to happen because it's wrestling. Anything can happen at this point.
sure,
And don't say, "Oh, Tony can't fuck this up now." Oh yeah, he could.
sure.
People said they couldn't fuck up WCW.
They managed.
They're out of business.
Yeah.
Devlin, do you think what if do you think it's a never say never thing for Tony fucking up the company, or do you just think it'll never happen?
I don't think it'll happen. I don't think his ego will let it happen. He's got a big ego, but I also think he's been a wrestling fan long enough to know that like professional wrestling is beautiful and it's magical and it's an art.
But
And I
what if
think
his dad pulls the plug and says, "Dude,
well, that's not his decision. You know, it if it's strictly up to Tony Khan, I don't think he'll mess it up. I think he's too much of a fan to let it get to the point of being just a pure shithouse like WCW was pretty much any time after 1999. Like it'll never get to that point. But I think he needs to firmly understand that he is always going to be number two to WWE.
Sure.
Yeah, you can say yes, we ran the biggest wrestling show in the history of the United States of America. That's a cool accomplishment. That's a really cool accomplishment. WWE's got a 50-year head start, never done that. That's amazing, but you're never going to be on their level or above them. You just have to accept that.
Right,
When you accept that and you just book what people want to see instead of trying to book against WWE,
right.
their product will improve greatly.
and I think trying to book against WWE is part of how Punk ended up there. I really do. I think
100%.
Tony got too aggressive and said, "We'll take anything we can get." And he took the top piece of metal scrap off the top of the heap, the shiniest piece he could find in the scrap heap.
Ew.
And let's be honest, that's where Punk was. He was in the scrap heap, right?
Right. But, one of the advantages of being a billionaire is that Tony Khan can afford to lose money
Yeah.
for a very, very long time without.
But his dad owns the company. That's the thing. And his dad is a very good businessman
He wants profit.
who did not inherit his dad did not inherit his money. His dad made his money on his
Right.
own.
Correct.
Correct.
We talk about all these billionaires. A lot of them are inherited billionaires. Shad Khan is not. Shad Khan grew up broke.
He's a self-made billionaire.
Shad Khan grew up broke and made his money. And at some point, I could see it where if AEW's profits go down, and we're not there, we're not in this position, but if their profits go down, I could see Shad looking at it and saying, "Dude, we're however
We're
much you want to say,
hemorrhaging money. We got to pull the plug.
we're hemorrhaging money. You spent $50 bajillion on CM Punk. You can't get a
Right.
TV deal right now, or you're struggling to get TV rights deals done because we don't know where that's at. They could be having a hard time getting a deal. And if they don't get a deal, they're in trouble. Like if AEW can't get a TV deal, which I think they will, but there is a world where they don't now, especially without Punk. If they don't get a TV deal, dude, like
I thought they had already re-signed with TNT as part of like bringing on Collision. I thought they made an agreement to like extend their TV deal with them for like 2 or 3 more years.
no,
Oh, okay.
they're still up. The rights are still up next year.
Gotcha. Okay.
So could there be a world where TNT says, "Look, we wanted you back exclusively for Punk"?
Yeah.
And maybe, and you know what? And don't say, oh, Turner wouldn't do that. They've had him since the beginning. Dude, businesses do stupid shit like that all the time where they kind of double turn on their partners.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
There's a world where Turner says, dude, you just lost your biggest name and failed to replace him.
Yeah.
Why would we give you this big raise?
That's why I think it'll be so interesting to see how Collision does the rest of the year. Because I really think that even though they lost CM Punk, the in-ring product is going to go up. And I think the fact that they did lose CM Punk, oddly enough, they're going to put more eyes on the product on Collision because they're going to be able to show off more people. They're going to
I
show
think
off
without
and Samoa Joe and Jay White. And I think the numbers are going to go up because the quality of wrestling is going to go up on that show.
I think the booking company
Yeah.
wide is probably going to get better without Punk there.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
it has been leaked numerous times that Punk had heavy creative control over not just him, but everything. Punk
Yeah,
had-
it's getting people banned from the building and all that shit, you know?
Yeah, he didn't want Christopher Daniels there, who's, you know, it's a ridiculous situation. Tony Khan shouldn't have let it get that far.
It's like they created a whole separate show for this guy.
Yeah,
It split the roster and it still wasn't enough for him to be happy. He's still
Correct.
going to be a crybaby bitch.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us. We went really a lot longer than I thought we would, but that's okay because we talked about everything we wanted to talk about.
Hey
Yeah.
Ben, can I share my undercard real quick?
Yeah, as long as you don't spend 60 million years on it.
What about 30 million? Deal.
I'll give
Okay.
you 28.
I'll take it. So my main event is Seth Rollins versus Kenny Omega in the interpromotional match. I've got 3 or 4 other matches. Another match I want to see, and I'm taking out heels and faces in this equation. I just want to see these people, teams, etc. compete. I don't care who's a heel, who's a face. The Acclaimed versus the Street Profits in a tag match.
Can I make a request for that?
Yes.
No Billy Gunn.
Yes.
Billy Gunn is banned from the building. Can we ban Billy Gunn from the building?
I want to see, and because I do like me some big man slapping man meat, I do want to see Bobby Lashley versus Powerhouse Hobbs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a match I want to see. Just 2 big, strong dudes going at it.
Trying to kill each other.
Yeah. I've got Christian Cage versus Edge in a street fight.
Oh, yeah.
And the promos leading up to that are absolutely just Christian Cage just being a menace.
Christian Cage can verbally eviscerate people. People don't realize how good Christian is at just verbally ruining your life.
And my co-main event, if you want to call it that, is the Bloodline versus the BCC with an emphasis on Mox versus Roman.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of my like dream fantasy AEW WWE card. Within AEW, I want to see Athena versus Willow on a pay-per-view. I've seen it enough on ROH. I want to see it on a pay-per-view. I want to see Eddie versus Claudio in a Texas death match, a no DQ match, a cage match, whatever the hell they want to do. Just let those 2 guys fight and record it.
Hell, put them actually on a street. Just put them in the middle of a street somewhere.
Yeah, or just have it end up like Hardcore Holly and Al Snow in the fucking Mississippi River like they
There
did
you
it.
go.
No Way Out.
That was a good one.
In 99 or whatever. And then the other match that I want to see that not a lot of people talk about, but it was kind of hinted at or at least talked about in some media scrums. I want to see Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness.
Man, people forget how good Nigel was.
Yeah, I want to see that Ring of Honor feud reignited big time.
Is he able to wrestle? I thought he was retired from injury. Nigel.
It's a gray area. We don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it always is.
like WWE wouldn't clear him, but WWE also wouldn't clear Soraya. And
Right.
then she came to AEW and got so it like Ben said, it's a gray area. And then
Sure.
within WWE, I only have three of them. I want to see Priest versus Balor, which I think makes sense.
It's gonna
And
happen.
then I want to see two Cody matches. I want to see Cody versus LA Knight. Let me talk to ya. And
Yeah.
then I want to see Cody versus Nakamura.
That could happen fairly soon. So,
That's that's what I want to see.
guys, we did not give Payback an actual grade, I don't think. I'd go B. It was definitely the better show.
Me too. I'd give it a B. And I think that the cage match that opened Payback, I would have to pick as my pick for the best match of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I'm gonna. I hate to do this. I'm gonna give it a B minus only because that Miz versus LA Knight match. Like anytime the Miz wrestles, I always want to give it just a downgrade. Just having the Miz on the pay per view in general just really takes it down a notch. I mean, the guy is super entertaining. Put him on the pre-show. Give him a pre-show match. Like there's no. And that story didn't do anything. Like he was obviously going to get squashed against LA Knight, and it was a
Why was
way to
Cena
give.
there?
Well, he was there to give LA Knight the rub. Like
So
Mhm.
that's
do
all he
Cena
was.
versus LA Knight.
That's all he was there for, and it just. I do agree. I think it was the better show of the two. I
Yeah.
think Trish versus Becky was the best match of the weekend. For me, number two obviously was Omega versus Takeshita. Number three was Rollins versus Nakamura. I will give it a B minus.
I think WWE was more prepared for this show because they had more time.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah. Tony Khan saw what challenges you
Right.
face when you have to run when you decide to run two pay-per-views in a
Right.
7 day period.
And then you lose your one of your biggest stars.
Exactly.
In yeah,
And
it had to be a rough week.
yeah, and
But
not just
I tell you what, the last couple of weeks has been so much happening in the world of pro wrestling.
yeah, yeah, it really has. And not just, like Russ said, not just losing your top star, but losing your top star and having your shows booked in his hometown all week. You didn't
Right.
just do one show in his hometown, you did four when you include all the TV they did. So,
Correct.
yeah.
I just I think we're in for a bit of a tailspin for AEW, but I think they'll go back up. I think they're in a bit of a tailspin right now, and I don't think we've seen the worst of it. I think there's more bad shit that's going to come out of this. I don't think this is over.
From
I
what
don't.
I understand, that there was a lot of incidents over the last year that never were made public.
That's true.
Uh,
There was a lot.
But that it seems the majority of these incidents, CM Punk has been involved in the majority of them.
Well, and CM Punk, it was announced today, or it was leaked today, that Punk actually had an incident with William Regal on the night that Regal debuted. He apparently got into Regal's face, said, "I don't like you, I don't respect you," and basically told Regal, "I think you're a Triple H stooge." So there's, which I don't agree with that, but at the
Right.
same time, I kind of do because, he left and went right back to Triple H. So
Right.
there's different sides of it, but yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot more damning CM Punk stuff in the months to come. That being said, I think if they have the time to do it, I think Tony's gonna make Full Gear extra good this year. Like Full Gear, winter is coming. Those kind of end of the year shows. I think Tony's gonna make those really, really good.
Or he's going to try.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if they don't get Mercedes Monet or Edge, though, I think in a they're in a hole.
Honestly, I don't think that they would have shown Mercedes Monet if they didn't have some kind of verbal or handshake deal that like, hey, when you're healthy, we're gonna bring you in. It's not gonna be full time, but you kind of don't do that unless you're going to follow through with it. You know what I mean?
Um, but if they don't, but if she doesn't come in full time, and I don't think she will because I don't think she wants to do a full time deal anywhere.
No, I don't think she will. But
But
there's, I mean, there's enough feuds there where she could do just the pay-per-views every year. You know, you could do Mercedes Monet, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm, like all these different angles. So
and you could do like remote interview segments for TV, and
correct.
she only has to be at one TV a month. You could do something like that. You could Roman Reigns schedule her. Really, they've WWE has proven that you can make a part timer work if you know
Yeah.
what you're doing. If you know how to book them, part timers can work. It's just you got to know what you're doing and you got to time the storylines right.
Yeah, I mean, you could even have things where she's over New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you know Tony Storm or Saraya or whoever she's feuding with makes an appearance at the New Japan show and interrupts her match and beats her down or whatever. So
Sure.
there's lots of things they can do.
You can get creative with the angles you shoot there.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. But
and
I
even if
agree.
she's not appearing on other shows, you could even have like Mercedes Monet's at a restaurant and whoever she's feuding with shows up. You could
Yeah,
do something like that and it's pre-taped and
yeah. But I agree with you. I think losing Punk is going to hurt in terms of it'll help long term in terms of the booking, the storyline, the lack of drama, the cohesion. It's going to hurt short term because you lost probably the biggest name in your entire company. It would be like WWE firing Roman Reigns. Like that's the level of star that AEW lost. And
Yeah.
so I agree with you in that they might not go on a hiring spree, but I think you're going to see a lot of big names coming in.
they have, and I hate to say this, they almost have to go after Goldberg now. They almost they
They're
almost have to. They're in a corner.
Yeah.
they got to do something.
They're almost, you remember when Goldberg came back to WWE and what was that, 2016?
Unfortunately, yes.
That almost felt like they had to do it, didn't it? They had to bring him back because they had a lot of people injured at the time, if you remember. Everybody was getting hurt. They This was before they started releasing a whole bunch of people too, so it's not like they didn't have the talent. They didn't have anybody healthy. That was the problem. What was it at that point when he came back at that point in 2016? What was it? 3/4 of the roster was injured or something like that? Like at one point, at peak, 3/4 of the roster was not physically cleared. Like you had to do something, and you went and got Goldberg, which any port in a storm. And that's kind of how I feel. I wouldn't even blame Tony if he called Goldberg tomorrow and said, dude, blank check, whatever you want, 3 matches, that's it. I wouldn't blame Tony for that because, again, like I just said, any port in a storm, Goldberg will get you ratings, put him on Collision, and he can win 2 matches and have him lose the third one to a Starks or a Hobbs.
I do think one thing we might see by the end of the year. I don't have this on good authority. It hasn't been leaked. I don't have sources. Just based on kind of how things have gone and my personal feelings on it, I think we're going to see a Sting retirement match by the end of the year.
Oh yeah. That'd be great.
I agree with you on that. But
But
again,
I think he's winding down a lot sooner than people think.
but would you guys be horrendously angry after the week they've just had if Tony called Goldberg tomorrow and said, dude, fuck, we need help?
So here's always been my thing on AEW. I'm not going to be tremendously angry about anything Tony Khan does as long as it puts eyes on the product. If it puts as Triple H always says, if it puts eyes on the product and asses in the seats, we'll look into it. I feel the same way. Like they could get somebody that I don't like Conor McGregor in, and I wouldn't be upset about it. I would still watch just because it's Conor McGregor. But at the same time, like you got to do what you got to do to put eyes on your product and butts in the seats because you just lost your number one guy.
And if that answer is Goldberg,
If that
right?
answers Goldberg, that answers Goldberg. It makes sense. He was, given the fact that it's TNT and it's Goldberg and you got Tony Schiavone there and you got Sting there and
And I don't know what the link is, but it came out that like him and Tony or Tony's dad are like friends somehow. I don't know how, but there's a weird connection there from the past. I don't know what it is, but there's
Well,
this.
and Tony brought it up at the last, I think it was the last media scrum, not for All In, but for the last pay per view. Um, he spent like 5 to 10 minutes just gushing about Goldberg, and I'd love to bring Bill in, and I haven't talked to him recently, but I have his phone number and this, that, and the other. I the one thing I don't want to have happen, and I know we're running over, so I'll wrap this up real quick. The one thing I don't want to have happen is I don't want Tony to get desperate. I want him to make smart decisions. I want him to bring in names that make sense, but I don't want him to bring in names and present them and have it feel almost like you said, where it feels like they have to come in or that it reeks of desperation that they're just trying to get more big names. Like, I want it to make sense.
But Goldberg does make sense for the point where this company
He
is
does.
at.
He does. And I wasn't referring to him specifically. I'm just saying, like, I don't, like, I
That's
wouldn't want, because I mean, Edge's contract is up at the end of September. So Edge could theoretically show up on the October 1st pay per view.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a big name, but like, the thing that Tony has to play is he has to make smart moves without making it seem like he's desperate.
I think because Goldberg is deceivingly very smart about the wrestling business. Like he knows, and you've heard him. He's made public comments since he left WWE that a lot of the booking that he had, he didn't agree with.
Yeah.
He was getting booked strong, and he didn't agree with how things were going. And he's admitted that he shouldn't have been in there in Saudi Arabia with the Undertaker. And he's come out and pretty much ragged on everything we ragged on him for. He's come out and said,
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that sucked. That
Yeah.
was the shits. It was bad. So if you put him in an environment where he has a little bit more, I don't want to say control, but input, and you give him maybe a 1-year deal where you say, okay, you're going to work 3 matches at these pay-per-views and you're going to be on these TVs and you're going to
give him a Brock Lesnar type deal.
And you're going to, and you're going to work guys that we know will not only be safe with you,
guys. Yeah.
And I would not put him in there with young guys. I wouldn't do it. I would put him in there with more experience. I wouldn't put him in there with Sting, but like put him in there with Mox, put him in there with Brian. Bigger name. The only reason you'd put him in there with the younger guys if you're going to put him in there with Starks or Jay White.
Right.
Those are the only 2 younger guys that he should be working is Starks and White. And other than that, have him work Jericho, have him work Moxley, have him work whoever. But don't overbook him because people are going to get sick of him.
I think Goldberg's are a good option, but I want to touch on what Russ said earlier. I think Russ really hit the nail on the head when he brought up Edge, in that Edge has, made it known that he's got a contract offer from WWE in his inbox, in his email. If you're Edge, your asking price just went up. And if
that was me that said that.
That was you, I'm sorry. And if you if you're WWE, you got to open that pocketbook a little bit more because
they can afford it.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense to have Edge go to AEW, either feud with or team up with Christian Cage, because there's another team there called the Hardy Boys that I'm sure a lot of fans like me would love to mark out at.
I think of those 4 guys, though, Christian is the one that can still work the best, and I think second is Edge.
But I think overall your point is correct. I think so. Tony Khan's basically got 4 months left in the year.
By the way, if I'm Goldberg, my asking price just went up.
Absolutely. If I'm any big name in the wrestling business who's a free agent, my asking price just went up. My thing is this. I think Tony is is I think we're actually going to see the best version of AEW between now and the end of the year. Because I think Tony knows his back is up against the wall. He lost his number one guy. That's not something you can easily come back from. Okay. They don't have the depth that WWE has, where Roman can go away for 6 months with leukemia and the roster keeps flowing easily and you keep getting the ratings. They needed Punk in terms of at least putting eyes on the product and selling merch. I think you're going to see the best version, and I think you're going to see a lot of surprise debuts, and I think you're going to see a lot of great um, surprises and entertainment, and I think you're going to see the best from AEW between now and the end of the year. And I think there's going to be some jaw-dropping moments, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was.
I think what's going to slowly start to happen is they're going to revert to pre-Punk 2021 AEW, which has always been what I think is the best version of this company. Pre-Punk 2021 AEW was the best version of this company. Whether you want to say it or not, the quality of the product went down when Punk came in.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't
the ratings went up, but the show went down.
And it wasn't all tied to him, by the way. It just felt like everything had to be built around him. They don't have that anchor anymore. And that's what Punk felt like. He felt like an anchor where they had to build everything around him because he was the big star. He was the big name. They had to cater to him. They don't have to do that anymore.
And I think, I'm sorry, go ahead, Russ.
No, I was just agreeing. Nothing to add.
I was going to say that I think one of the other things, in addition to like major debuts, is I think you're going to see a lot of internal building. Like I think you're going to see guys like Ricky Starks and Jay White and Juice Robinson.
They got to build Ray Phoenix back up.
Guys, like I think you're going to see their homegrown talent, so to speak, get shot to the moon.
I think Ray Phoenix is another one of those guys that
absolutely Penta and Ray Phoenix. I think those two. I have a feeling that this whole Punk thing is going to make Tony Khan up his game, because he knows that he's like, okay, I've got these numbers with Punk. I've got this, 900,000 or 1 million or 1.1 or whatever it is with Punk. I've got these 200,000 buys on pay-per-view. How can I sustain that? How can I get back to that level? Okay, well, here's what I need to do. And Tony's smart enough to know you can't just rely on debuts. You can't just bring in Edge or bring in Goldberg and think that's going to solve all your problems. I think Tony's going to look at the structure that they have and he's going to build on it. And I think you're going to see a lot of, I think my prediction is that between now and the end of the calendar year, these 4 months we're going to look back on this and say that these are 4 of the best months of in-ring work, storylines, and everything that AEW has done. I think it's gonna cause everybody to up their game.
Let's wrap this up pretty succinctly here. This is make or break for AEW. They have to do what Devlin said, which is internal build. Edge and Goldberg and Mercedes, they're band-aid solutions. All 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mercedes, I think less so because she is by far the youngest there. And if you can get her on a full-time deal, which, dude, if Tony manages to get Mercedes Moné full-time, I take back about half of what I said here. Because if you manage to get Mercedes full-time, you're operating on another level at that point. That's borderline, not quite CM Punk, but pretty fucking close in terms of somebody you could get right now that is going to put asses in the seats and she's not going to cause problems backstage.
The problem with that is if you sign her full time, you have to commit to using her and the women's division correctly. And I don't think Tony Khan's going to do that.
I don't think Tony can do that because I don't think Tony knows how to.
Correct.
Unless you're going to bring in, and yes, I believe her deal is up, unless you're going to bring in a Gail Kim or someone like that to book your women's division.
Bring in a Tessa Blanchard.
That would
bring in the CM Punk of women.
Wouldn't that just be ingenious? Oh my God. Can you
Yeah.
imagine that? Dude, if we think this Punk shit is bad, imagine if they had Punk and Tessa in the same locker room. Jesus Christ.
Oh man, that'd be a nightmare.
Imagine those two in the same company. Holy.
Well, it's not out of this world because he's had Tully Blanchard there. He had him there for years. So
Yeah.
one,
Uh,
one
but here's the thing. If they go get a Gail Kim from Impact, who's been booking their women's division and doing it very well for a very long time, her and Scott D'Amore have done an excellent job with the Impact women's division. And I know nobody gives a shit about Impact, whatever. I'm not talking about numbers in terms of viewing. I'm talking about quality of product here. And in order to get a Mercedes Moné, you would almost need a separate person on their own, only focused on the women's division, only focused on booking the women's division. Dude, ask Dutch Mantel about it. When they did the knockout stuff in TNA before, they flushed themselves down the toilet and are starting to emerge again. Dutch Mantel exclusively, when he was in TNA, do you know what Dutch Mantel did exclusively? He booked the women's division. That's all Dutch did.
Right.
That's what AEW needs.
Yeah. They had a real good thing going, there for a while. Gail Kim and
Awesome
Awesome
Kong.
Kong were getting the highest ratings of the show, and they had a great thing going, and then the company screwed it up and botched it when it was at the peak of the popularity. They just completely blew it.
Because they fired Dutch right in the middle.
Yeah.
Uh,
I do want to make one other prediction. I think that Jade Cargill will return to TV before the end of the year.
I don't see that happening. I could see them, Madison Rain is on her way back from injury right now. The talk internally was when she came in before she got hurt, obviously injury. And I think she had a family situation too. So she's been gone for quite a while, but she's going to be back fairly soon. When she's back, I know for a fact that right before she got hurt, they were talking about her taking over creative for the women's division. I don't know that that's a bad idea because she was doing a lot of what Gail Kim is doing now when she was still in Impact. So
bring in Lisa Marie Vachon, I would love to see Victoria come back.
I mean, but you need someone booking the female division and only the female division.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You need a woman to do it, or you need a guy like Mick Foley, I'm not
Dutch.
saying it will be Foley or Dutch, but somebody who's 100% completely committed to putting on the best women's wrestling product every single week. That's what you need. Not making it a secondary storyline, not making it, oh, we gotta do the mandatory one women's match on the card. You have to have somebody who's legitimately into it, cares about it, and can book it correctly.
Do you know what the offer would have to be to Dutch though? And I know this is going to sound terrible because Dutch is, Dutch has made it very clear that he doesn't like being on the road anymore. What they would almost have to say to him is, look, you can write the show from home, write the women's segments from home, send them to whoever, Tony Schiavone, Tony Khan, whoever handles that. I know Schiavone's been fairly involved in creative lately. Send them there. We'll make adjustments, send them back to you. You get final approval. And you don't have to leave your house, except for pay-per-views. It would almost have to be something like that because, again, Dutch is in his 70s. You're not going to get Dutch Mantel on the road full time.
No.
And it is pretty much a full-time road schedule with AEW now because of the Wednesdays and Saturdays thing.
And Friday.
But Friday's not live most of the time.
True.
So you almost have to, if you're going to get Dutch. Now, I think Gail Kim's a little bit of an easier sell because she's already in Impact. But that would even be a hard sell because in Impact, they shoot from one spot. Well, Impact's been on the road again lately, actually. So I can't even say they shoot from one spot because Impact's been on tour again. So
I think they should bring in somebody, not necessarily, behind the scenes, but maybe on camera, Bring in a Mickey James, you know, somebody like that. Bring in a well-known name and let them, run through the women's division. Awesome Kong is going to be back on Impact. She's doing their like 1,000th show here
Can you believe
coming up.
that fucking TV show got 1,000 episodes? Holy fuck.
I believe that this won't die.
Do you guys remember? This is like a random line. Do you guys remember when they were doing the AW Impact crossover stuff? And Shivani made the joke on commentary of what's the name of the next pay-per-view? Impact Wrestling We Are Dead?
Oh, I don't remember that. No.
Impact We Are Dead?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I think you need to get somebody like a Gail Kim or a Mickey, or I don't think Mickey would ever go to AEW simply because her husband's an Impact.
Yeah.
And the Bucks don't like Nick Aldis at all.
That's true, yeah.
Nick Aldis.
Who is her husband?
Nick Aldis.
Nick Aldis.
Okay.
But here's the weird part about that. The Bucks don't like Nick Aldis, but Nick Aldis has like no problem with any of them.
I wouldn't. The one person I could see coming in for the women's division, not that I want to see it, but I could see Maria Kanellis Bennett coming in.
I mean, she's a good booker.
Yeah.
She was booking ROH's women's division before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And doing a really good job. So could you go? Maria's already in the company because Matt Taven and Mike Bennett are there.
Yeah.
Could you go to Maria and say, look, and Tony would almost have to kind of like put his ego aside for a minute and be like, look, Maria, I'm going to level with you. We're in the shitter. Punk's gone. And I
don't know what the fuck I'm doing booking a women's division.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anymore. You have booking experience from the ROH division. Fucking help me.
Sure.
Like to me, I look at it and it's almost mind-blowing how that AEW's women's division isn't stronger. When you look at
the talent.
Athena, yeah, when you look at like Athena and Willow Nightingale and Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander and Tony Storm and Saraya and Britt Baker and all these different people that they have, those like 8 people I just mentioned should be all main events. You should be pushing all of them, and that doesn't even include like you could bring back Nyla Rose as like somebody who could run through the division. You bring back Jade Cargill as somebody who could run through the division. There's so much talent that it's been so underutilized.
So again, you go to a Maria Kanellis and Tony would almost have to get on his hands and knees and beg, probably, but and just say, dude, I'm fucking. Tony would almost just have to look at her and say, look, I'm fucking clueless. Okay. I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
It's frustrating and disheartening because I never was a women's wrestling fan until I started watching Trish and Lita matches back in the Attitude Era, and that's really when I got into it. And then we went into a period where WWE just like had the Divas thing, but then AEW really got me back into women's matches, and so did WWE with the Horsewomen and stuff like that. Right. And it's just you look at all the talent, even the ones I just named, and others that. There's so much women's talent in both companies that just aren't being used. It's really sad because there's so many great and talented women. Like, if it was me, I would make Athena like the number one person on Ring of Honor. Like, she's the number one woman on Ring of Honor. I'm talking about like overall Ring of Honor, that show. I would center it around her and Samoa Joe.
By the way, I want to make it abundantly clear. I think AEW made a mistake not going after Roxanne Perez. They didn't even entertain a conversation with her. They made such a mistake, and you're seeing that in NXT now with how good she's been for them.
Yeah.
Think about what Roxanne Perez did for NXT when she went in there during the pandemic. Go look at NXT's ratings from after Roxanne Perez came in. They went back up because of her, because she was main eventing the show. every single week. And do you know why that is? Because she had the buzz from Ring of Honor, and WWE said fucking money. And she was 20 when they hired her. They're like, dude, we are going to ride this coattail for the next 15 years. And I guarantee you, part of the reason the women's division is in the position that it's in is because Triple H looks at it and says, we have talent, but it's all pieces that don't go together. And that's kind of the thing is AEW's puzzle pieces kind of go together. WWE's really don't.
Well, they've kind of booked them that way though. Like you've really got like your four top tier women. You've got Charlotte, Rhea, Becky,
Bailey.
and Asuka or Bailey, and then you've got everybody else, and everybody
Oh,
else,
and EO now.
and Io, and everybody else doesn't even seem like a credible threat. Like Tiffany Stratton's not going to beat Becky Lynch. Becky, especially because they made the point that Becky Lynch has never been NXT champion. Like, why would you make that point if Tiffany Stratton is going to beat Becky Lynch? You don't. So Becky's going to win that match and win the NXT title and have a nice NXT run, which is awesome for NXT, and it's going to promote that brand and those women. But
dude,
again,
if they don't do Roxanne Perez versus Becky Lynch while she's down there, that is a missed opportunity and a half. By the way, I think the future of the WWE women's division is Stratton, Perez, and Cora Jade.
I think it's Raquel. I think it's Raquel Rodriguez. Honestly,
no, Raquel is what Miz thought LA Knight was, which is a fad. Raquel is very much so Vince McMahon service.
Could be.
But gentlemen, we need to end this show. We have been going for far too long. All right.
Okay.
Everybody, Russ is just like, oh, thank God. This fucking
Oh,
sucks.
yeah. I'm starting to yawn. Past my bedtime.
Well, me, Russ, and Devlin have talked your ear off for 2.5 hours now. Thank you all so much for watching. Damon, play my music. Guys, thanks for showing up for work. Go check out Uncle Russ's Comic Talk. Go check out the streams, twitch.tv/BenGames99. We will see you right back here next week. Bye-bye, folks.